Well, may I remind you that we're taking a trip through this old world toward an eternal destination. This is Pastor Hayton in the Lower Lights Devotional. The other day I was thinking about our travels as a young person, a kid growing up. Mentioned that we had left West Virginia, moved out to the Midwest here in 1948 when I was 5 years old. And up through my teenage years, every summer, we took a family trip back to visit our kinfolk, back what my dad used to call back east. Now, as a kid, I thought we were going to West Virginia. Why does he say we're going back east? But finally got my geography straight and understand why you go east to get to West Virginia. But anyway, I talked the other day about the anticipation of our trip. Long before it was scheduled for us to leave, we had a high level of anticipation. I mean, we were going back to West Virginia. We were going to see our aunts and our uncles and our cousins and our grandparents and living in a somewhat remote area in Kansas especially, where travel was an adventure for us. I mean, we were going to have some adventure as long as reach a destination that would offer some good times. So we anticipated that trip, and I think that we ought to anticipate heaven. There ought to be a big level of excitement as we think about how we're traveling toward the city of God. And even as Abraham of old, he looked for a city that hath foundations, whose builder and maker was God. So we are traveling toward a destination, and the anticipation of someday arriving in heaven, well, it ought to be great. But I thought not only was there anticipation, there had to be preparation. It took a lot of work to get ready for a family of 6 or 7 to make that long trip back to West Virginia every summer. My mom would have to begin to get her clothes ready and make sure that we had plenty of clothes to look decent when we visited our relatives. And I remember the washing and the ironing, and perhaps my dad would sometimes have to find some odd jobs in order that he might save up some money for the trip. And we boys, we always liked to buy some firecrackers because we knew that they were outlawed back in West Virginia, and we made pretty good money selling firecrackers to our cousins. So we were preparing, by saving up money and purchasing fireworks, and just a lot of preparation went into the trip. And if we're going to make it to heaven, travel safely through this old world, we've got to make some preparation for heaven. The prophet of old said, "Prepare to meet thy God," and that's who we're going to meet when we get to heaven, and it takes some preparation on our part. We must prepare for this journey at the foot of the cross as we ask forgiveness of our sin. We must prepare for this journey as we seek out the truths of God's Word. Someone has rightly said that the Bible is our roadmap to heaven. And so we sit down and we study the roadmap, and we anxiously not only anticipate our trip, but we prepare for our trip. So are you anticipating heaven at the end of life? Have you prepared for the